These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. I got my first trail camera when I was 10 years old. It took 8 D-cell batteries and had a roll of film, and I set it up on a dead cow to see what would come in on it. I was so excited to take that roll of film to town, get them developed, and when I got my photos back, it was mostly just blurry photos of ravens and magpies, but in one of them, in the dark, I could see all these eyes circling this cow off in the distance, just glowing in this big bright flash of this giant, awkward camera. But I was so excited by that I just knew that I'd be running game cameras forever. And they've changed so much since then. The best of the cameras now are made by Tacticam. So these reveal cell cameras will work in places that have basically no cell service at all. So I can get cell service on the camera when I can't get it on my phone. They have live view. They've got active GPS. So if a bear packs my camera off, I can find it again. Or if I forget about it, definitely have done that. I can change all of the features through the app on my phone. The photos and videos just get sent to me. And ultimately, this makes me a better hunting guide because I can monitor a really wide area without going in there and disturbing the wildlife in that area, right? I'm just getting the intel back and making decisions based off of what I'm seeing on those cameras. If you want to learn more about Reveal, go to www.tacticam.com and check out their newest camera. That's the Ultra. That's the one that I'm using right now. And it's, simply put, the easiest and best trail camera that I've ever used. So go check it out. Yeah, man, every podcast studio should have a 50 caliber in the corner, you know?
See, can you talk her into that? Because she keeps shooting me down on a 50.
I don't shoot down on it.
I feel like it's the one thing in the collection that I'm lacking is a 50.
So here's the thing about the old 50 cal. I love it. First of all, on the tank, everybody kind of has their own station, right? There's four different crew members. You've got the driver, loader, gunner, tank commander. Everybody is going to be carrying a rifle and a pistol inside the vehicle with them. The loader also has a medium machine gun, but it's just on a pintle. It doesn't have sights. It's like a get away from me kind of gun. The gunner, of course, he's got everything. You know, he's got his medium machine gun that's slave to the main gun that is the entree of the tank and what it has to offer. The tank commander can take control of the main gun, but the tank commander's primary weapon in a lot of ways is a 50 caliber machine gun. I loved it. The M2 machine gun, invented by John Moses Browning. It went into service in the early 1900s. It's still in service. It's an amazing, amazing gun. And the 50 cal itself, the 50 BMG Browning machine gun, it was just a 30-06 that was scaled up, right? So it has all of the same dimensions as the 30-06. You just go from 0.30 inches to 0.50 inches and make everything else scale the same. It's just a cool, iconic cartridge, and I shot thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds of it. Loved it so much. So when I got out, I wanted to get a 50 cal, and I got one. And I bet I've shot that gun like 50 times, maybe, With that muzzle brake on there, it's a pretty unpleasant experience. I'm fortunate for the muzzle brake. The gun weighs 36 pounds, and it still is a substantial amount of recoil. But a silencer for that thing is like $2,000.
Yeah, for anything worth it.
Right. Yeah. So it's, I don't know. If I had a can on it, I would shoot it a lot more. It'd be a lot more fun. I have hunted with it. I've killed a deer with it. And yeah. And actually it wasn't a big meat destroyer like what people might be imagining, because a deer just isn't enough to deform that bullet. Yeah. I mean, it died for sure.
Right. But it's kind of a through and through because it's carrying so much energy and speed still. You know, I mean, at any reasonable distance to shoot it.
Yeah. But it wasn't like that bullet was mushrooming and fragmenting and doing the things that smaller, faster bullets do that cause a lot of that damage. So I say that the 50 cal is kind of a novelty. It's a fun rifle to have for like your friend that comes from out of town and wants to go to the range. It's like, oh, you want to shoot the 50? And they shoot it once and they're like, whoa, that was rad, kind of, but I also don't want to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm helping your case or not. But
no, I never said you couldn't.
She's like, why do you need that? I'm like, why do you need anything? It's just one of those things, like you say, a novelty, because it probably would be one of the least shot firearms in the collection.
For sure.
It's just that fun factor.
Yeah. A lot of them also are not inherently accurate. I think that's a big myth that civilians have about 50 cals, that they're, this ultimate sniper rifle. It's pretty rare to get one that'll actually shoot MOA or even close to it. They're an anti-material gun as much as anything else.
Yeah. They're hit big targets, stop big things kind of thing. I mean, it's not. Yeah,
you're thinking about shooting, Toyotas and things like that. Yeah. Which they're great for. But yeah, no, it's a giant heavy gun that I shoot every once in a while. That's about it. I'd rather shoot smaller stuff. Have you found in your shooting career that you have changed your relationship with recoil?
Oh yeah, for sure.
How so?
I mean, I've mellowed on things. I still have an ultralight, right? I have a 300 PRC and an ultralight, which without a can on it, that thing is a mule.
Yeah.
But I look for stuff that's either A, heavier, or B, a lighter caliber, just because it's more accurate. I mean, if you're not fearing recoil, it doesn't matter how much you shoot that rifle. I feel like you still know it's going to punish you if it's something big. Yeah,
part of your brain for sure knows that there's about to be an explosion and a consequence for it.
Yeah, and our bodies are wired to protect us, right? So I've kind of moved down. I really like 6.5 PRC. I think my favorite gun, and it's random, but my favorite gun in all of my collection is a Henry X Model 357-38 Special lever gun with a can on the end of it. That is just the ultimate fun. Like when I go to the range, it always goes with me. It's in the truck right now because it's just so much fun to shoot.
Just fun to shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you run the 38s in it, and that's one of the rifles that would be, it's as close to Hollywood quiet as you're going to get. I mean, but there's no kick, there's no nothing. It's just, tink. It's so much fun. But,
Jody, what's your favorite rifle to bring to the range?
What's the one that is my favorite that I stole from you? You can be on this. It's
the old tried and true 700 243.
I don't know. It's always a fun. It was like my my voice is super scratchy for some reason. Favorite rifle that I shot my first buck with when I first met him, because I wasn't a big hunter when I met him. Lived in Central Oregon, and he handed me this. He's like, "Here you go," and it was like I claim that as my favorite. That's not like a.
That's the black hoodie of rifles.
That's my favorite. Just keep in the truck, see a coyote, whatever. But I don't know.
Tough to beat.
It's just a good old trusty.
I shoot a 6mm Creedmoor more than anything, which is almost identical to a 243, and most of mine are built on either Remington 700 actions or clones of that action. It's really, really dynamic, and man, it's great on deer. It's great on bear. Some of my guides use them on aoudad, use them on elk. They do really well. I think it's light for elk, but when I was growing up cow hunting a lot, that's what I shot was a 243, and I killed piles of elk with it. Yeah.
It's just tried and true. I mean, that 243, it just, like you say, it just flat works.
Yeah.
And you know what it's going to do. You know that you can go, smack an elk with it up to 150 if you want. I mean, that's probably the max I would even think about it with a 243. But either one of us will take on a coyote at 250, 300 with that thing.
Sure. Yeah.
If you make contact with it, you know it's not going to suffer because it's done.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Do you do much coyote hunting?
I used to do a lot of coyote hunting. Some of the places I used to coyote hunt on a lot, the old ranchers have either passed and the places have sold. So it's kind of, I'm not a pay to hunt kind of guy, you know, so I've lost a lot of that private rancher where I'd go out and fix fence and my reward was I could go shoot coyotes whenever I wanted to, right? You know, so it's worth fixing fence or helping with a water trough or, you know, whatever it is on the ranch. But I've lost some of that. So not nearly as much anymore because a lot of the public down there where we're at, public land's kind of overcrowded, you know, and I hate coyotes that are trained, you know, guys that shoot at them and miss and they'll just take that pop shot and then the coyote's trained. So you can't get on a coyote at a decent distance because they see somebody and they're just gone, you know, except for right now pups are coming out. So they're kind of dumb.
Yeah. No, they learn fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have a farm in Umatilla at his parents' place, and we have the miniature Highland cows. They're not the mini ones. They're like the mid-size. But when I have calves that are born, you know, the coyotes are wandering around down there, and I'm
Gotta
like, don't
protect
even
those
think
little
about
babies.
it.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take them out.
That's the nice thing with suppressors is like when you're around the herd, they don't care
Yeah.
what you're shooting, you know? I mean,
Oh yeah. Well, we'll get deep into that here in a few. But why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about what you got going on right now?
I'm Jody Bissonette. What do you want? Just like explain, or what do you want to say? Like as far as like what I do our business. Like,
Who are you? Where are you from? What's your favorite color?
from Bend. I grew up in Bend, Oregon. Met him 14 years ago. Moved here. I work in the dental field, and and then trying to help out with this business as we're getting it rolling, trying to do whatever I can on it and
Yeah.
get going.
Where do you live now?
Hermiston.
Cool.
Yep.
Are the cherries on?
Yeah. I went to the farmer's market in Tri-Cities yesterday, and everyone's selling cherries.
Yeah.
I got some. They're really good.
Mine are still probably 3 or 4 weeks out if I get any.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because it's cooler.
A lot higher elevation. Yeah. But I did get to eat my first strawberries of the year when I got home last night. So pretty excited about that. Yeah. What about you, sir?
so I'm Justin Bissonette. I'm her worst half. So from Umatilla for quite a while now, doing the firearms thing, I have a bad habit of having to modify absolutely everything that I touch, typically speaking. I don't know, from vehicles to guns to my daughter stay sick, had to do a brushless conversion there. You know, like I like modifying things, which I think that's what drove me into the firearms industry. Guns are so accessorizable, modifiable. Nothing's perfect. So you get to change so much. So that's what pushed me there, I think. Sound Off Suppression is our company. Started it 4 years ago now.
Yeah, 3.
4 years ago. Just kind of started in slow. I've always liked suppressors, so the science behind them has always really kind of been enticing to me. What makes them work, you know, what does, what doesn't work. And when you start diving into them, you see all the different factors that they are as you're developing and designing and then watching flow characteristics and harmonics. You know, it's kind of what pushed me into that field. Is nothing was perfect, so it's always fun to play with, but at the same time, you can only skin a cat so many ways, so you can't change it too much, but you can play with it.
Well, I'd love to get into that more. My understanding is that the guy who invented the machine gun went deaf, and then his son invented the silencer, which was also that same patent was used to invent the muffler for automobiles later on. It was this great engineering family, the Maxims. And the original patent for the silencer was a tube that had baffles in it that connected to the end of the barrel, and those baffles slowed the gases down as they left the muzzle, and that reduced the sound, the decibels of a firearm. And I think it's such a beautiful thing that one of the worst experiences of shooting that caused his dad to go deaf, like he was able to take that on and solve that problem. But like what you're talking about, you have a limited amount of space and there's a limited number of things that you can do with expanding gases. So with all of the competition that's out there in the space of silencers, how do you get a foothold in creating something that is meaningfully different?
I don't know if you're truly going to create something that is meaningfully different at this point. You can improve upon, make things more efficient, but you're a baffle design of sorts. Now with 3D printing coming into the world, there was some significant changes because there's just stuff that you cannot machine. You know, it doesn't matter if you have a 5-axis machine or twin spindle with live tooling. You're not going to be able to create the intricacies that you will with 3D printing. You know, I mean,
yeah, different geometries are suddenly capable.
Yeah.
And I was part of the beginning of that with Sig Sauer and those 3D printed flow through cans that they want a DoD contract with. It was really interesting to see that getting developed, and you know, 3D printing has changed so much since then. You know, that technology is moving incredibly quickly. Are you looking at 3D printing or are you looking at machining?
So right now we're machined. Our 2 major cans, they're machined. Working on a 3D printed design. I pretty much have it ready to go. I've been talking with 2 different 3D printing companies, kind of just figuring out, get a prototype. I'm not big enough to have my own, $1 million 3D printing machine. It just doesn't make sense. So we're going to outsource some of the printing on our design and then go and test everything and all that. Working on a flow. I think flow cans really have a good place on the gas guns. I don't know how much I love the flow cans on a bolt rifle,
Can you explain what a flow can is to people who don't understand?
So a flow can, it vents the gas out the front of it. So it's not just capturing, but it's got multiple layers of intricate baffles and channels. Conventional cans that are welded and machined only have one diameter chamber, right? So the baffle goes from the center core that your bullet passes through to your outer wall of your can. And that would be conventional style, whether that's a K can, baffle can, monocore, whatever. Those are all use one chamber, passage through. It kind of captures all the gas. When you go to a flow can, you might have 2 or 3 different height levels of cylindrical rounds with different channels sitting on top of them that none of them really truly stop. The center core will stop the gas coming from the center, and it diverts it out to the sides, and it has to walk around. The best way to explain the inside of those cans it would look similar to a ping pong machine in an arcade. And then it vents that gas out the nose of the can instead of, what that helps you with is you can run your AR the exact same way. You should have an adjustable gas block, but you don't have to have an adjustable gas block because you're getting rid of that gas. You're not trying to drive that, and it's not slamming your bolt through your gas system coming back, all
right, let's slow down just a little bit. I know that you're an absolute expert at this and you're very familiar with all this. We're talking about some complicated things, and we've got a global audience all over the world, some of whom may have never even seen a silencer before. So let's really break it down as much as we can. I don't know what a K baffle is. Like, what are you talking about?
So K baffle is exactly what it sounds like. It looks like the letter K.
Okay.
And it's got porting. It can be ported just in the center with, we call it clipping. So you'd have your round hole, and then some of them are clipped to the side. Everybody's got their own unique take on a K baffle, and different things work different ways depending on how you've got, let's call it your main blast baffle. So usually a main blast baffle in a can, I'm sure people have heard that term. That's the baffle that takes the most abuse. Okay,
so this thing is threaded on the end of the barrel. the bullet exits the muzzle. There's some gases that are ahead of it, but most of it are behind it. And then it's going to enter this first
expansion chamber.
Expansion chamber. Yeah. This blast zone that all these gases are escaping at. These gases, it's worth mentioning, are moving significantly faster once they exit that muzzle than the actual projectile. So if my bullet's going 3,000 feet per second, some of these gases might be moving, 4, 5, 6,000 feet per second at that time?
Double, if not some, depending on your pressure, right? If you're dealing with a 45,000 PSI case, then it's going to be slower than if you're dealing with like the 7 backcountry that's up in the 80s, 80,000 PSI range, which obviously then again, everything's dependent on barrel length and all that other fun stuff. I mean, there's a lot of math that goes into it,
And the worst kind of math, which is flow dynamics, like that. Right. That, I mean, you're flirting with quantum physics at that point.
Yeah, I mean, flow dynamics are, and when you're trying to keep a projectile stable, you're trying to reduce harmonics. You're adding weight to the end of a 20-inch round rod for, that's basically what a barrel is a hollow round rod that's 20 inches, or some are 16, some are 28, right? But
what do you mean by reduce harmonics? What are harmonics?
So, I mean, every time you shoot a bullet, you have an explosion, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that explosion, just like any other explosion, is going to create a vibration. So by adding the weight, you change the node point in the barrel because you're adding weight. And the node is where your harmonics are traveling at. And some scientists or engineers refer to it as the barrel whip. Some people are pretty determined that the barrel's got a certain whip and the bullet exits at X amount of speed at a certain point of the whip. Well, if I add weight, let's say that the whip theory is 100% accurate. It's definitely going to be a contested theory, but let's say you add 14 ounces to the end of a 20-inch barrel. You're going to change that whip point because now the barrel can't wave nearly as fast because it's got weight on the end of it. So you're going to change your node, which creates a point of impact shift.
Okay, so if I'm holding a garden hose and nothing's flowing through it, then that garden hose is just going to remain static.
Right.
But if my hand is 3 feet from the end of the hose and I turn water on,
it's going to wave.
That hose is going to whip back and forth.
Right. So you have the same essential effect, just a lot faster and a lot less movement in a rifle barrel when you shoot.
So we're dealing with magnitude and frequency.
Correct.
So frequency is how often that movement is occurring. Magnitude is how much movement is actually occurring. And when we hang a weight off the end of the barrel, we're going to change those things.
Correct.
So my understanding is that higher frequency and lower magnitude tends to make for a more accurate rifle. Would you agree with that?
I'd agree because you have less movement overall.
Okay. And when you're talking about nodes, if we have really accurate and consistent velocity with a bullet, then that barrel should be at the same point of whip every time the bullet exits. So then our bullet's going to be going the same direction. That's how we get good groups.
Same direction, same point of leave in the barrel whip. It's leaving. That's why hand loading is always more accurate than box loading because, you go grab a box of, let's say, Hornady shells for your 7mm backcountry. I don't even know if those are available yet. But let's say in that box, you're going to be probably vary anywhere from 75 to 150 feet per second leaving the barrel. It sounds insignificant
as far as like the standard deviation between your fastest and your slowest.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. You say 20 rounds and your high and low is probably going to have on a really good packed box that it was packed on a Wednesday that everything was perfect. You're probably going to have 75 feet per second. Not a big deal there, but on a Friday box where the guy wanted to leave, you might have 150 feet per second difference if you're running a chrono on every single shot. It doesn't sound like that much of a difference in 3,000 feet per second. But that millisecond or hundredth of a millisecond of time that projectile is either in the barrel for longer or shorter amounts of time on that standard deviation is going to obviously change your group size because you're leaving in a different node in the barrel. The dip barrel's at a different whip point because it's moving slightly slower, slightly faster. So your group's going to be not ideal, right? You know, then you hand load and you get your standard deviation to, let's call it 25 feet per second, because you're super precise. You're cutting grains to make sure everything is, 72 and a half grains in there, and you're using the same powder and you're setting the primers and your bullet depth is all set, which is a whole nother conversation, right? But everything's perfect. So now we're leaving at the same node of the barrel whip and the same point of the barrel whip. And now we have a quarter ammo a group at 100 yards for our dial-in, and we know our rifle's perfect. We go put that suppressor on the end of the rifle, and we're going to change our nodes. So we're going to see a point of impact shift on it just from the weight alone. No harmonics added, no gas, no speed up, you never slow down with a suppressor unless, maybe if you had a horribly designed suppressor, you could slow a bullet down, but I think it would still be really difficult to achieve that. So, you don't add any of those other factors in there, and you're going to have a point of impact shift just out of the gate because of the weight that's added there. Unless, let's say you've got a heavy profile, like PRS rifle or something with a big heavy profile, like the Seiko TRG-42, for example, that's got huge heavy barrel. You're going to have less of a point of impact shift because it's got more rigidity to it. It's already heavier.
Have you seen the structured barrels from TACCOM HQ?
I have seen pictures on the internet, but I've never fondled one.
Yeah.
So
kind of interesting. I have one of their Alpha Terex out here that I'll throw on a 223. Very, very interesting technology. That prism shift makes it so that I can use my 223 0 to 50 yards, and I can shoot it all the way out to 400 with a duplex reticle and hold on a coyote the entire time.
That is pretty cool technology.
So I stay inside of a coyote out to 280. I drop that prism and I can stay on it out to 400. Without touching a turret, without having, a spaghetti Western reticle in there that, suddenly I'm, doing some calculations. It's like, is it close? Is it far? And it turns it into a really rapid binary solution. But they started doing these structured barrels, which I encourage folks to go look at because it's very interesting. It looks like the cylinder on a revolver. So on the outside of the barrel, they drill holes that run the length of the barrel. So there's all these holes inside of this large diameter barrel. You get some weight reduction out of that, but you also get this 360 degree arch effect, which, the arch in engineering is the most powerful of structures. And then you get that repeating all the way around. So they're able to make just the stiffest barrel out there. When I saw this, I was like, man, I wonder if this could be scaled for hunting. I don't know if it can, but I wonder if we can scale this. So I took a bunch of light carbon arrows that were just shafts and put them on a really skinny contour barrel, and then I hose clamped them on there. And I was like, I'm adding, basically, I think they were 320 grain shafts, and I was able to get 5 of them wrapped around there with a couple hose clamps. So it wasn't a significant amount of weight. And it did provide an incredible amount of stiffness, and it did exactly what you think it would do. And it made a lightweight barrel shoot like a heavyweight barrel without adding a lot of weight to it. It just looked real stupid because I had a bunch of arrows and hose clamps wrapped around my gun. But I think that there's something there. Yeah.
I think some of the best ideas look the most stupid when we first initially try them.
You don't want to see the Gen 1 model. It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah. You definitely don't show the general public or some of anybody but your close friends the Gen 1 because you're like, this was horrible, but all right, it's roughed out.
Yeah, it's a concept. I think that there's something there. But, what we're doing with carbon barrels and, wrapping fiber right now is certainly a step in that direction. But if we can reduce weight further and also allow some cooling in there, because now you've got some air channels that are wrapped around. I don't know. I think that there's something there. We'll see. But okay, so now we're back to purely the mass of hanging the weight of the silencer off the end of that barrel, and that is going to innately, it is going to change how that barrel is whipping as that projectile is traveling down it. When I was talking with Brian Litz on this podcast years ago, I was asking him about how how silencers tended to impact accuracy and what he had found. And we're getting into the actual diameter of the baffles. And I was curious about how the pressure was changing as that bullet, especially the ogive of the bullet, where it's going from skinny to larger to full caliber size. That pressure is certainly increasing around that bullet. And then it's going to be speeding up as it goes over the boat tail of that bullet, probably giving it a little bit of a shove. And I think that's probably where the velocity gain comes from that we see in some silencers. And what he had found was that the larger diameter baffles tended to be a little bit more accurate than the smaller diameter baffles. So if you're shooting 223 through 223, you might actually see less accuracy than if you're shooting 223 through 30 caliber baffles, even though it might not be reducing sound quite as much. But yeah, it's interesting. His biggest thing was that the mass on the end of the barrel was the biggest accuracy improvement. That you might be able to do the same thing with just a lead weight.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that have got the tuner weights out there for the barrels that they try and tune that node and time that node just strictly on a weight, if they're just getting accurate. It's way cheaper than buying a suppressor.
But it doesn't make your gun quieter.
That's the big thing, Yeah. I mean, is the sound reduction and being able to go run without ear pro. I mean, am I going to go run a 10.3 SBR 5.56 at the range with just a can on it and no ear pro? No, that's not happening. Like, I'm still going to run ear pro on that. And I don't care whose can's on the nose of that thing. They're still barky. They're a short barreled gas gun. It's really, really hard to mitigate it. That sound, and we ran the Hucks, we ran T-back conventional Thunder Beast arms, conventional cans on there, our cans on that stuff. And you get the same result with an SBR, right?
How are you testing decibels?
So we use a Lars decibel meter, testing it as the mill standard at the barrel and at the shooter's perspective. When we test, because I don't have all the scientific gadgetry to test the actual pressure and everything, and then send off for third-party testing on because there's way more to decibel than there is, to testing hearing safe than there is just decibel reduction. It's pressure.
Let's get into that
impulse.
A little bit. Because decibels are an awful metric. They don't make sense because they're nonlinear.
Right.
Right. So explain to me how decibels work a little bit, and then give us some frame of reference for, what does 60 decibels versus 120 decibels sound like? I
mean, 60 decibels you hear every day. It's every day that you do. 60 to 80 decibels is somewhat normal, and that's slamming a door is probably around 80, 85 decibels. Maybe it gets up to 90 depending on the door you slam. Talking and working, talking you're probably right around 50 if I had to guess. I've never really put a good sound meter up to it.
And a quiet room might be 30.
Right. I mean, it's all perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're curious, car door slams, it doesn't hurt your ear at 85, 90 decibels. Or a house door slams, you're like, oh, why'd you slam the door? But it gets your attention, but it doesn't hurt your ears.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden in another 30 decibel gain, your ears are ringing. I mean, that's insane that when you go to 120, your ears start ringing. You get up to the 150, 170 range, and it's deafening. You can get tinnitus from it and everything else. Disorienting.
You're talking about like permanent hearing damage at that range.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got too much exposure, and on any of that, it's just miserable to deal with, in my opinion. I personally hate ear pro. I don't like earphones. I don't like earplugs. So
what's something that could make a 150 decibel sound?
other than a gun. I mean, popping a balloon's probably going to get somewhat close to it. I would say popping a balloon's probably like 130 to 140, I would guess. Again, never put a sound meter up to it, just never even thought to do that. But I would say popping a balloon, nice tight one's probably, somewhere up there in the 140 range.
And then there's also how long you're exposed to this sound as far as that impacts hearing. So maybe you're at a concert that's at 120 or 130 decibels. If you're exposed to that for 3 hours, you might have some hearing damage from that. Whereas if you're exposed to it for a portion of a second, no dramas.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're never going to have the short, like the 130 and below. You're not going to have hearing loss from it if it's a short, interaction with it. But if it's sustained interaction, obviously, like you say, go to a mosh pit in a concert, and you're probably going to have some hearing loss by the end of the night.
Yeah.
If not something else lost too. But
so how does pressure add to this?
So, I mean, the sound wave effect, pressure is probably what does the most damage. I don't have any science behind that, but I mean, it's not just the decibel cracking that's doing the damage to your ears. It's the same thing as, supersonic crack. If you have a flyby on if you're in an air show and you do a flyby and you get the supersonic crack, you can feel it resonate in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Popping a balloon's not going to resonate in your body, and that's probably what does the most damage to the inside of our ears.
Right.
So I'm a little bit lacking on knowledge in that subject, to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the medical science there, if we're being truthful, because...
Well, I mean... You don't have to, right? You don't have to be an ear, nose, and throat specialist. But the reality is that a rifle or a pistol, whatever, that doesn't have a silencer on it, does produce a sound that causes hearing damage, right?
Right.
Like straight up. If you have a silencer on it and it's a shorter barreled gas-operated gun and you shoot it a lot without hearing protection, you can still get hearing damage from that. If you shoot a long-barreled bolt action that's a Magnum and you shoot it a lot in a high frequency without hearing protection and you've got a silencer on it, you can get hearing damage from that. If you don't shoot it with a silencer, you will get hearing damage from it, and it happens on the very first shot.
Right.
Right. So that's one of the biggest things about silencers that we need to think about, is that without them, we're causing damage to ourselves, very unnecessarily.
I mean, if you're shooting, a lot of people have never shot suppressed, right? So they don't have that experience and that comparison to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, if we go look in our grandpa's closet, how many rifles are we going to find that are threaded?
Yeah, none.
I mean, it just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
It used to be a thing back in the 1910s before we had the NFA, 1968 when the NFA came in. And it used to be a thing where you could order a suppressor through Sears and Roebuck so that you could shoot coyotes without disturbing your herd. I mean, that was literally a thing back in the day. And then all of a sudden they became regulated, and it's kind of an item that's fell off,
and come back on.
And now we're transitioning the last, 15, 20 years, probably the last 15 years, it's been a lot more hotter of an item than it was before that.
Really, after Iraq and Afghanistan, when troops got to experience silencers, they came back and they're like, hey, this is a better deal. This is worth it. It's worth the tax stamp for you to do this. And then as people got exposed to it, and, you're at the range with a loud gun, and then you go down and get to talk to somebody who's shooting a civilized rifle, and they're like, hey, try this. And they shoot it and they're like, wow, that was really pleasant. And they're like, wait, it didn't kick me as hard. Wait, you're shooting more accurately. I don't need ear protection to shoot this. It's like, this is better in every way. There's very little advantage to a loud gun.
Right. And I still could contest the advantage of a loud gun would be maybe in a home defense situation of it scaring the intruder into your place, right? But at the same time, it's also going to scare everybody else. It's going to be loud and disorienting to you just as much as it is to them.
Absolutely. Shooting a gun inside of a house, whether it's in a stressful environment or not, bad deal.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to have that experience yourself.
Right. And I mean, that could be the only potential side that I would say that a loudness would be maybe a benefit, but I can't even see it being a benefit in that situation. You know, if I'm playing devil's advocate against suppressors, but everything should be suppressed in my world. You know, it's not Hollywood quiet. You know, and in other countries across the world.
Let's get into what that means a little bit, because that's how most people encounter silencers is through movies, right? And you see James Bond shoot somebody and goes, pss, pss, like that. I don't know what noise they're using to imitate the sound of a suppressed shot, but it's for sure not a suppressed gun. Like that's not the noise that a suppressed gun makes. It's not this like Star Wars little zippy sound.
No, I mean you still have noise with the suppressor. I don't care if you're shooting subsonics. Yeah, you can get a 300 blackout really quiet that's running 300 grain subs. You know, you can get it quiet. You can get it down 80, 90 decibel range, but you're still at 80 or 90 decibels. You know, which is back to that door slamming sound. Right. I mean, it's still loud. It's still making noise. It's not drop the hammer and then all of a sudden something hits, you see a window fall because the bullet went through it, or the steel target makes a ding because the bullet's going to make noise traveling through the air. It's going to exit. Like, you're never going to get Hollywood quiet. It's just not going to happen. Right, because that's not real. Right. I mean, turns out there's things in movies that aren't real, guys. It's the weirdest thing ever, you know? And I've argued with people, it's been a frustrating, well, I want my rifle, my supersonic rifle, hunting rifle, to be down around 80 decibels. Okay. It's not happening. No. You're breaking the sound barrier. The bullet is breaking the sound barrier, creating a sonic boom, which is going to be louder than 80 or 90 decibels. Yeah, sonic boom is going to occur somewhere around 120 to 130 decibels. I mean, that's the noise that you're trying to fight. So yeah, there's no free lunch in physics. Right. Yeah. So, okay, you want to shoot subs? Okay, fine. We're not breaking the sound barrier. We can get, close. I'm not going to... Subs being subsonic rounds that are coming out less than 1,080 feet per second-ish. Yeah, we're not breaking the sound barrier. If you want to come out of the barrel at 950, 1,000, let's not even try and push it close at 1,020 or 1,050, because every now and again, you're going to get a hot round and break the sound barrier. Mm-hmm. So we're just not going to hit Hollywood quiet. We're going to make noise. You're going to know... in 2 or 3 rounds, where the shots are coming from. You can locate it. Yeah. It'd be really hard to locate a suppressed shot in 1 round. That would just be... No, if you're unaware, you cannot tell where one shot comes from, no matter how loud it is. Right. Yeah. But you're still going to be able to locate that. Herds are going to be able to locate by 3rd shot for sure. Animals are more alert than we are, and they hear better. So yeah, usually 2nd. Yeah. Usually the herd's looking at you right in your direction on number 2. They're looking around on number 1, but they're looking at you on number 2. Yeah. I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but if I haven't, if I have, bear with me, because I'm going to tell it again. I was hunting elk with my mom a few years ago, and she had her first silencer, and it was on a SIG cross rifle gun that I got to help with, and it was really cool. I was so excited to see my mom using a rifle that I'd got to help in the development with. And we snuck in on this herd of elk. She had a cow tag. They were in a meadow. It was early October. Bulls were still bugling. There's a little, we're kind of on the back end of first estrus. And one of these cows kind of separated from the herd, and I had her on a tripod. And, it's 200 something yard shot. It's just great. She shoots, suppressed, hits this cow. A little bit back, but it's going to be a good enough shot. Some of these elk didn't even stop grazing at a little over 200 yards, right? It's plenty loud enough. Like, they definitely heard it, but they didn't have a reaction to it. And I've seen this play out many, many times. It's not a one-off thing, but this was a great example. So this cow's standing there, getting wobbly.
a bull goes over and tries to get on top of this cow to breed her. Like that was how much we were getting away with. And I said, all right, go ahead and reload. When she racked the bolt, the elk picked their heads up, saw us, and took off, and her cow fell down dead. Like, yes, this is like the example of the advantage, right? If we had not racked that bolt, then that cow would have just died, and we could have sat there and waited, and that herd would have grazed off. We wouldn't have even disturbed their day, right? That is, from an ecological standpoint, that is so incredibly valuable to have the minimum impact on the greater population of these animals and on your environment. It's just wonderful. What an incredible thing. And then her shooting experience is better. For me, guiding next to her, I'm able to stay in my optics and I'm not flinching like crazy. You know, I can observe the impact of the bullet. There's just layers and layers and layers of advantages to this. And there's a couple things that I won't let anybody hunt with if I'm guiding them. One of them is a muzzle brake. One of them is burger bullets. And the last one is expandable broadheads. Because they're all just disasters, you know?
Yeah.
They're all just disasters.
I would agree with that conversation.
Yeah.
This winter, so our daughter just turned 9, and which made her old enough for the Oregon mentored youth hunt.
And she sounds like she's a little bit of a gangster.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah. She's been shooting for a while, a couple years.
Yeah.
She got a 22 for Christmas, I think, when she was 3. I wasn't the most popular for that one, but
better late than never.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, there. And then she turned 5, and 5 or 6, she got a 17 HMR, one of the Ruger Precisions, 17 HMRs, threaded, obviously.
Yeah.
Because suppressor world.
Great gun.
So she's been shooting for quite a while. Well, this year she was turning 9 when I had a cow tag that I drew for kind of a long season cow, coastal. And I'm like, hey, you're old enough. Are you up for doing some hunting now? She's like, well, kind of. What am I going to shoot? Well, 7 mod 8s are really good ladies gun, minimal recoil. They got a lot of punch, about 300. And I won't stretch their legs more than that on a cow. It's just, and like, we'll do this one. Just a Ruger, nothing fancy. And I was like, it's threaded. Let's put a can on the end of it. And then let's go out to the range and let's see how you like it. So me and her go to the range, blah, blah. We shoot. She's 5 rounds. And mind you, she's 70 pounds at that point in time, 65, 70 pounds.
And she doesn't want someone to kick. She doesn't want it to hurt her. She's like,
yeah,
not timid, but she's seen, some of them. And so we're like, it's okay. Just.
And so she's like, that's not bad. First round goes down range with a can on it. We're not wearing Air Pro. It's not loud. And she's like, man, that didn't really kick. I'm like, okay, well, let's put a couple more on paper and see how you're doing with this thing at 100, and then let's step it out to 200 so I know what your max range is for ethical hunting, right? Mm-hmm. So we do. And I think she did 5 rounds in one sitting, and then we went back, kind of took a 20-minute break, and then she put another 4 rounds downrange. And all on target. She wasn't scared about it. She wasn't flinching. So I'm like, okay, great. We're ready to go hunting. We get down coastal, track them a couple different times, finally get in on one after she'd worked about a week and a half for it over Christmas break, between Christmas and New Year's. She'd worked about a week and a half after this. So finally get in on a herd, get about 115, 120 yards, and I've got her set up on a tripod with it. And we're kind of hid behind a tree, and herd's grazing out in front of us. The beauty of this story is there's no ear pro being worn, and I'm not worried about my daughter's hearing, like a loss whatsoever. And as they're coming out, I'm sitting there and I'm talking to her, which no ear pro allows me to talk to her a lot better.
Right.
And cow comes out, but it's got a shadowed cow behind it, and she isn't seeing the shadowed cow. And I'm like, wait, hold, that's not a clean shot. Then a bull comes out, and I'm like, no, that's a bull. You can't shoot that.
But she knows that, but
she knows the rules. But I'm coaching her the whole time, making sure everything's going right, mm-hmm. And because I don't want to double punch a cow or something like that, or hit a bull on accident. And she doesn't either. And
Yeah, it's so important for that first experience to be a good one.
Yeah, it needs to be positive, right? And I want her shot to be, I want it to be broadside. I want her to, she's practiced on paper targets with elk. She knows where to shoot the elk. So, but if I've got it broadside like the targets are and I can kind of simulate out at the range, she's going to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking the whole time and we're whispering, and probably 5 minutes goes by, these elk moving around, and finally we get this cow that just steps out in the clear. And nothing in front of it or behind it that's going to step. She puts her head down to graze. I go, that's the one, pull the trigger. Boom. She takes it. Cow lays over. She hit it right in the back corner of the shoulder. She gets it good. And the herd all kind of picks her because we're fairly close to them, 110, 120 yards. And herd kind of picks up, looks at us, and they're just kind of looking around. Where'd that come from? They can kind of know that it was over towards that direction, but they don't know. And they're kind of looking around and they're just doing their thing. And they don't do anything until me and her start celebrating, because I got a 9-year-old that just killed a cow. And she's so excited. She's about ready to cry and she can't keep her voice down.
She called me crying.
Yeah.
Happy tears.
It's a big deal.
Uh-huh.
And the herd only went maybe 50 yards into the trees away from us until we finally went over and kind of pushed them. We went over to the cow. We gave it a solid 15 minutes or so, but the cows and the couple bulls, the little bulls that were in there, just went over kind of by the edge of the trees and they're kind of watching us doing their thing. And then once we go over, they pushed off a little bit. But had that not been suppressed, I don't think it would have been nearly as positive of an outcome because it would have been more difficult. We might have spooked the herd, and would have been wearing ear pro, would have had to be louder. So all around, the suppressor really enabled us to have a super positive hunt experience. And one shot, one kill, first cow down at 9, you can't complain about that. And, there's some landowners around there. Nobody came out wondering where the shot came from. I'm sure some people, if they were outside, they heard it. But, it was just a positive experience because of being able to be suppressed.
Right.
So that's probably my favorite hunting story.
I love that.
I've hunted so many places and so many things, and it was such a simple hunt that it was so great, and you get to do it with your daughter. So
when I was in Africa, I shot a nice Inyala bull, one of my favorite animals. Like, so beautiful, so incredible. Can't wait to get him back here. And because I was shooting suppressed, there was another Inyala bull that was right there, and he didn't leave. And this is a spooky African brush game animal. And we were able to get my buddy on the rifle. He got his too. We got them right next to each other. I was able to, I packed mine out whole. We packed his out whole, got a picture of them both together. Like, incredible. But yeah. Okay. So I think it's pretty clear at this point that suppressors are awesome for all the reasons. Growing a suppressor business, starting from scratch, that is an undertaking. Like, there's so much regulation, there's so much competition. What are some of the challenges that you guys have faced? What are the challenges that lie ahead?
I think in the beginning, when we released some pictures on social media of our very first can, there was not a lot, I shouldn't say, but there were some comments of, oh, well, hey, you copied so-and-so, you copied, at the end of the day, there's only one way to make a round tube that deadens sound, right? You can only make it look so many different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, so anybody that's on market share, you could get accused of copying them. Our design is ours from scratch. If you look at our muzzle device, so we're not direct thread, we have a muzzle device, and it's different than anything else. It's a helix, a three slotted helix design that we have a quick attach. So making your design different enough would be one challenge, or it look different enough would be one challenge. So you're not copycatting, because that's the last thing you want to do is copycat somebody.
Yeah, you don't want patent infringement or anything like that.
Yeah, not stepping on anybody's toes in the market, because we're not here to take over the market, right? We're here. I'm in the industry because it's fun. It's always been an interest, so getting that done. Marketing, you fight Google and Meta every time you try and post something. If it's gun related, you're going to fight the the marketing stuff every which way you look at it. And finally, we had to break down, and we've hired a marketing company at this point because they're good with Google, so they know what we can and can't do. Because I was probably going to get banned from Google if I kept trying to post ads, and not even intentionally trying to post an ad, but it's like you misword something. And so that's a huge challenge to overcome. Social media is a huge challenge to overcome. Stereotypes, as you're growing the brand and you're talking to different people, stereotypes of suppressors being Hollywood quiet is probably one of the most frustrating, or it's going to change your accuracy on your rifle. If anything, it should improve your accuracy and improve your experience. So breaking some of those myths, those were huge hurdles to overcome.
And continue to be. And it's why I keep talking about it here on the show and every other chance that I get, because I really want people to understand what silencers are and what they are not, what the advantages are, and whether it's going to be worth it for them.
Well, and okay, I've got you talked into a suppressor. Now I'm going to go tell you that. So when I bought my very first suppressor, I don't know how long ago you bought your first suppressor, but it was probably back in the days of paper form stuff,
For sure.
So that was an undertaking, getting everything.
9 months, is 4 different stops, is brutal.
My first suppressor, I think I got back in like 418 days was my approval.
Yeah.
And it was a T-back can. It was a 338 Ultra Thunder Beast Arms can. So it wasn't a cheap can,
And you got to pay all that money up front.
Yeah. You pay for the can, and all right, buying the can's bad enough. Oregon, we don't have sales tax, so fine. Retail price is retail price. Now I got to go pay the government $200 on top for a tax stamp just to tell me that I can own this quieting device for my rifle. So that tax stamp it's definitely salt in an open wound, because you're paying $200 essentially for a background check, which I think is absolutely ridiculous.
Sure.
I agree with it on a machine gun. Absolutely. It's got moving parts. It can actually shoot a bullet. I agree with it to a point on SPRs and SPSs. I just don't agree with it on suppressors that cannot fire a projectile by themselves. Like, what could a suppressor do off of the rifle that could hurt anybody unless you used it as a baton, maybe, but you could do the same thing with a baseball bat. So you don't have to have a tax stamp for a baseball bat.
Yeah. And look, these other countries like South Africa, New Zealand, European countries, the way they approach it is you have to meet certain legal requirements to own a firearm, just like you do here. If you own a firearm, okay, you've already met the legal requirements to do so. So why not be able to have the advantages that a silencer offers? It's like you can already own a gun, so like who cares if you make it so that it doesn't cause you hearing damage? So in South Africa, I could go to the hardware store and buy a silencer. And they have some cans down there, they're like $50 that are aluminum and they're disposable. And guys will buy a can and, they'll shoot 100 rounds through it and throw it in the trash because it's like whatever. It's like an oil filter at that point. It's a wear item. Now, we would never do that here because it's such a pain to get one, even though it's easier now than ever. Right. Like, it's so easy now. You can go through Silencer Central or, any of the other number of companies that do a really good job of walking you through the system. You can have this thing in your hands in a very short amount of time. It's so easy now. Yeah, I very much appreciate that. But it is crazy that the ATF considers this thing that cannot fire a bullet, that does not have moving parts, to be a firearm. It's a joke.
It's insanity at its finest, in my opinion. But like you're talking about other countries and how suppressors are so readily accessible. In a lot of countries, it's considered, if you go to a range without a suppressor, it is considered rude,
Well, I consider it rude here.
Yeah. I mean, but in there, it's just a culture of you should be suppressed if you're going to go shoot around other people. It should be that way in America. I really think we should have that belief because it just makes everything so much more enjoyable. I am excited about the new bill that's going through, the big, beautiful bill that's going through that they're attached to, and maybe we'll get the tax stamp away and get them off the NFA list, maybe, if it can get through the Senate. That would be absolutely awesome. So maybe they'll just be a 4473 item, which if they're a 4473 item, it would be even better.
And what does that mean for those who don't know?
So 4473 is your standardized ATF background check. It's the questionnaire that you fill out
every time you buy a gun.
Every time you buy a gun. That's the guy that you do, that your serial number's on and all your personal information is a 4473.
Yeah. So, and they check to make sure that you are a U.S. citizen, that you're not a drug addict, that you're not a felon.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're legally eligible to own a firearm. Here you go. Yeah.
I think that's a great form to fill out when you buy a gun, you know, and it's handled by the state, okay.
$15, I think, is what that one costs.
State of Oregon charges 10.
10.
Yeah. So some dealers mark it up, is what it is. We do the standard. We just pass the fee across because.
So we're a couple cups of coffee into this thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal. Right. Yeah. And, like, if Washington has a 10-day standard wait period, cool. I'm going to go buy a suppressor in 10 days. I've got it.
Yeah.
It's an X, Y, and Z plan, right? Mm-hmm. Where when you're waiting for a tax stamp, I just had somebody get a 24-hour approval, but I'm not going to promise you that you're going to see sub 30-day approval on an individual, right? If we digitally submit everything. So you might have it next week. You might have it in a month kind of conversation. It's what's the ATF's load look like this week? Mm-hmm. Which that's the big thing is suppressors are now with the age of digital submissions, digital fingerprints, taking your passport photo off of your phone through an app. We partnered up with Silencer Shop. So we have a kiosk in our shop. We can do fingerprints right there, digital for you. On the kiosk, you can actually fill out your questionnaire for the government so that everything's done. You can select your trust individual or other if you're undecided, So 15 minutes at the kiosk, you're done. You download the app to your phone, you take your picture, all your required documentation is in. It's so pretty easy. You can buy the suppressor, do all your paperwork all in one-stop shopping. So I wanted to make it convenient for people to be able to buy a can.
Nice.
I mean, because if they got to run around.
So people can come down to your shop. Is it in Hermiston?
Yeah.
Okay. So people can come down to your shop in Hermiston. They can go to the kiosk. 15 minutes later, they can walk out the door, and then somewhere between a week and a month, they can come down and pick up their can.
Yeah, we had a trust come back. Yesterday, and it was like I think he was like 3.5 weeks on his wait on his trust. Mm-hmm. Individuals, they've been running anywhere from like 7 to 10 days, kind of is what an individual's been running. I mean, and that's just a rule of thumb. It's not a promise. You know how that goes, and everybody needs to understand that.
Well, here in Wallowa County, I'm 7 to 10 days on a package from Amazon, so it's like not too bad.
Yeah,
right.
Still pretty convenient.
Yeah, so it's not a huge wait anymore, so that's really nice.
Here's the big question: amongst all of the cans out there, all of the metal tubes with baffles in the middle that screw onto the end of a barrel, why should somebody buy yours?
I can't say that we're skinning a cat any different than anybody else with our product. I mean, it's a great product. It swings with all the big level stuff. It's titanium. It's lightweight. We stand behind it for life. If you do manage to burn out the baffles, great. Send it in to me, and I want to know what your round count was, and we'll get you another one, and we might even cover the tax stamp if the round count is impressive enough for you. Get it back to you. So I stand behind my product. Our customer service is great. I want to work with everybody. We still have that small business. I want to maintain the small business feel no matter how big we get, which I think is one of the great things about the firearms industry is it still has really good customer service. People want to further the industry, which we do too. So, I mean, I think those are probably the primary reasons to buy our can. It would be customer service and us standing behind our product, and we're going to do everything we can to help you and get you into the right fit. And whether or not you want to, if you're local to the Hermiston area or Eastern Oregon and you don't have a dealer that sells stuff, we can pretty much get you any flavor of can. I'm not opposed to selling you a Thunder Beast or a Dead Air or a Psycho. I mean, we'll sell other people's stuff to you if you're dead set. Your buddy's got a Thunder Beast Ultra 7, great. Our count's going to be a little bit quieter than that on most of the rifles because we got more volume than an Ultra series.
How are you competing with these other brands on price?
in the titanium world, we're right there.
Yeah.
1095. We're 1095 for our 9.25 inch long can, and then we are 785 for our 6 3/4 inch titanium can, 1 3/4 diameter. So lots of volume there.
Do you have some Inconel in there as well?
We don't. We didn't blend the baffle. That's one of the. We didn't blend the baffle stack. That's one of the things that we want to incorporate into a 3D printed cans is we want to get an Inconel baffle stack in there. That way it can handle the heat and the abuse a little bit better. We're running a pretty thick titanium baffle for our blast baffle. Like we were talking about earlier, that's the guy that takes the abuse. You know, he's the one that's getting the brunt of that pressure and heat and everything. So we're running pretty thick titanium there. I actually intentionally, there's a video on our social media of me intentionally baffle striking a can just to kind of prove that I baffle strike it. It goes down range, I don't know, 30, 40 yards. Go down, pick it up, shake the sand out of it, put it back on the rifle, and go back to zero. Our cans are pretty tough, you know. And
that's impressive.
That was on a 300 PRC.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was ejecto-ceto, and then it still shot. It still went on target. So in a hunting application, you didn't get the can screwed on tight. It got loose. You baffle struck. All right, you missed that bull. You're not out of commission. You're not re-zeroing your rifle. You're continuing on that hunt.
Nice.
You know, unless you somehow manage.
A bulletproof can.
It's not bulletproof. I mean, it did some damage to it.
Bullet resistant.
Yeah, there we go. It did some damage to it, but it still did its job on the follow-up shots.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was why I was kind of, somebody had asked me about that. And it was kind of right around when some of those other cans that were 3D printed or had a centered baffle, there's something in there that was fracturing. It was kind of around the dead air. Not dead air. The death to the baffle kind of, it was a release that was, people were having problems with them. So it was a big topic of conversation that when I did that.
Yeah.
So, but I think that company got everything sorted out. So those are doing good too.
Yeah. I remember when dead air cans were getting blown in half, and some people like weren't finding the end of their can. It's gone. It's like when you're mechanicking and you drop a washer, it's like it evaporated. I don't know. It's gone forever.
Yeah. Or the infamous 10 millimeter socket that you must have 10 backups for if you're a mechanic, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't know what it is about 10 mils. Yeah. They vanish.
They have legs, I swear.
Little springs.
Yeah.
When you're working on something and a spring flings out and you just like try and stop your heartbeat so that you can maybe hear where it lands. Like, oh no.
Yeah. That's the worst. But yeah, so I mean, they get all that sorted, but we did that then. And so they're pretty tough, you know, and we stand behind what we sell.
And they're light. I mean, I don't remember the exact.
So,
because when I'm hunting, I don't want to, my rifle's already heavy.
Yeah.
You're packing it for a while. I'm like, I don't want to add a bunch of extra weight, even if it's ounces, to my rifle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the lightest system that you can have that gets the job done is the right system. I got 2 silencers from Gemtech here a couple years ago, and I got one that was, you know, a steel alloy and another that was a titanium alloy, and the price difference basically translated to $100 an ounce. Yeah, but I can tell you that if I have 2 rifles standing there and one has the titanium one and one has a steel one, I'm probably going to reach for the one that's a couple ounces lighter. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's titanium kind of got a bad rap early on, I think, because you used to get, that was one of the fights in the suppressor world was the titanium ping, you know, that twang that titanium had when you would shoot it, which was a lot due to some cans being too thin, muzzle brake design, you know, that kind of stuff, or attachment design, right? Whatever your attaching point was. Our cans don't have any of the tie twang, you know, it doesn't matter what you're running them on.
And that's awfully nitpicky.
Yeah. I mean,
but I mean, when you're, some gun guys are the nitpickiest nerds that you will ever meet in your life. And they are the people who will take out a razor blade and shave a particle of powder down so that they can try and get that most consistent system out there, which is also why I don't reload because I'm not that guy. I'm very much, the minute of lung guy. So, all right. Well, where can people find you? How can they support you? And if they're in the market for a tough, light titanium can that's built by a small business in Northeast Oregon, like how can they track you down and get involved?
So go to our website, soundoffsuppression.com. Exactly how it sounds. Social media, Facebook, Instagram. I think we're going to do a TikTok. So those 3 platforms. If they want, reach out, send us a call, give me a text message, send me an email, sales@soundoffsuppression.com. Our phone number's on the website. It's on our social media. We're not bashful. If we miss your phone call, leave us a message and we will call you back.
Nice.
Or if text is easier for you, text us.
Yeah.
I know we're turning into a world of text happy people. So I'm bad about it too, but it's kind of text messaging is nice. So that's why we do it.
Yeah, it's concise.
Yep.
Yeah.
To the point, it's in black and white and you got it. Even if you forget about what the conversation was about, you can review it. So, or get to it when you get a chance. So
cool. Well, hopefully we can get out to the range sometime and do some shooting. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's definitely needed to make that occur. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, good luck to you both. This is a challenging thing. There's all kinds of throttles that are against you in trying to build a business within the firearm sector. Building any kind of a business, it's like jumping off of a cliff and trying to figure out how to make an airplane on the way down. It's pretty exciting too, and it keeps you up at night. And it's important to have something that takes everything you've got to make it work. And I think competition is a very good thing, and that you have plenty of it. It sounds like you're trying to make things better, that you're working hard to make sure that your customers are happy. I love it, and I'm really proud of you for taking this on.
Oh, we appreciate it. I mean, we want to give our customers the best bang for their buck. I mean, that's what it's about. So, and like you say, competition, it only makes us better.
Best bang for your buck, less bang for your gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
All bite, no bark.
Yeah, good. I love it. Well, good luck, and hope you sell 1 million of them.
Thank you.
All right, bye everybody. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time out of their busy lives to write a review for the show and share it with their friends. I'm extremely proud of how intelligent, engaged, and adventurous this audience is. Original music for the Six Ranch podcast is written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Harlander. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.